Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. How's everyone doing? You enjoying the seminar so far today? How many of you had popcorn after that motivational speaker? Yeah, guilty as charged, guilty as charged. So I'm here, my name is Kelly Kulik, I'm one of the board of directors for USBC, and I'm here to introduce your speaker for today for this afternoon seminar. So bear with me as I give him a brief introduction, and then he'll kick you off on your way. Mr. Bart Berger is the Director of Membership and Educational Services with the Bowling Proprietors Association of America, where he is responsible for education, training, membership, public relations, and marketing services. He is a nationally sought-after speaker on education, training, operations, and motivation, and has more than 30 years of experience in the bowling and entertainment industry. We are certainly blessed to have him with us today to speak on the dollars and cents of the bowling industry. Please welcome Mr. Bart Berger.
All right. Okay, I'm going to use this right here. Okay, before we do this, stay right here, Miss Kelly. This has nothing to do whatsoever with what I'm doing. Everybody, take out your phones. I was just in that last session. Take out your phones, get your camera. I'm too old to do a selfie. My arms are short. Kelly Kulik just introduced me, everybody. Take a picture for me. Okay, I've only got an hour and 15 minutes. Hurry up.
Wait, get my good side.
Awesome.
Hey, wait. I can make it better. Hold on.
Because I don't know how to do that selfie. I'm really old. Can you do
Get out of here.
do a quick selfie, and then we'll start with the business at hand?
I can't even get my code going here.
Okay, then everybody do what she said with the hashtag and all that stuff, and it's, there you go.
Ready? 3, 2, 1. Oh,
Awesome. I'm going to be trending. Thank you very much, Ms. Kelly. Hey, I'm a bowler first and foremost, folks. When a legend introduces you, that's pretty darn cool, so excuse the interruption there just for a moment there. That is... I'm a fan. So good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for welcoming me and giving me a few moments to share some information with you. As Kelly said, my name is Bart. I'm part of the team at the campus. Just real quickly, kind of the why. Jason, if you were in the session today, Jason talked about the importance of the why, and I'm a believer of that too. Why? Why would we even be up here talking about the business of bowling, and what does it mean from your perspective and in your jobs that you do? Earlier this year, when the USBC team was putting together their Leadership Academy, they came and asked, would you talk a little bit about kind of looking through the lens of a proprietor and a little bit about what the proprietor goes through in the industry and some of the things about bowling. And I said, sure, I'd love to talk about this great industry that you and I are a part of. You know, if it resonates and it's good for the group, then great, I'm happy to do it. So we tried it, we did it at one, and it went fairly well, and we wanted to do it again and again, and just seemed to really resonate with the attendees. So when it got time to plan this, they asked, would you be willing to share this in front of the group? And I said, sure, I'd love to. Again, if there's some value, if it makes sense for the attendees, I'd love to come spend a few minutes with you and talk about this great industry and sport that all of us are a part of. So this group's a little bigger than normal when we get together at the Academy. I like to have some Q&A and like to get some interchange going so you're not just listening to me the whole time. So I still want to try to have some questions if we can. So I know some of the folks, some of the helpers, Ben and some others, they're going to have some microphones. Again, if you've got something or you want to ask a question, I'd love to entertain that because this is really making sure that you get your questions answered too. We gave you a handout on the way in. We'll talk about what to do with that when we close today. We're going to walk through just a quick little exercise that Ben will take you through when I'm done with my portion. So how many were in with Sam this morning? Sam Glenn, the attitude? Yeah, most all of it. That was pretty cool. I believe in that. I'm a student of continual learning. So when I had the opportunity to come be with you today, I made sure I was here first thing this morning and wanted to sit through the sessions because I'm like you. I'm a learner. Just continuous improvement. I do believe, I study Covey. I do believe that your attitude absolutely determines your altitude. And I also believe that we should seek first to understand and then be understood. And that if we can all appreciate a little bit about what each other goes through, it just makes for a better outcome. And that's why really Chad asked, would you share a little bit about, from your perspective, the day in the life of a proprietor in doing that? So just very, very quickly about me, just to level set, you know, why I even be up here. While I'm with the team at BPAA now, and I've been with them for going on 8 years, I'm a lifer in the industry. And my definition of a lifer is when you've been doing it longer than 30 plus years and you've earned the right not to tell people how old you are or how long you've been doing it. So I'm a lifer, 30 plus, and you can even put a couple extra pluses on there. So before I joined the team at BPAA, I was very blessed and fortunate to work for Brunswick, On the retail side, operating bowling centers around the world, and since 5 years with independent proprietors before that. So my heart, my passion is in the game, in the industry, in the sport. And one of the reasons that the team at BPAA asked at the time if I would come join them was really so they had kind of the view of the proprietor as the association was moving forward and making the changes that they were. Okay, just to help me before I get started here, how many of you, just quick show of hands, how many of you work in a bowling center currently? Okay, quite a few, so good. All right, I'm not going to be alone. And then do we have any managers or owners here, any equity folks? Got a couple, good. All right, so if you're an equity person, you can call me out, man. You have permission. If I say something's not true from the equity stake, you have full permission to hold your hand and say, hey, wait a minute. That's not how it goes, okay? That's not how it goes. So you're going to be my check and balance as we go forward here. Okay, let's see if we have this working now. Okay, got it. All right, so what are we going to cover during our brief time today? Very quickly, I'll tell you a little bit about who we are. This is not a commercial about us, but just to give you some background of who we are and what we do, because it fits into your space as we better understand each other. I've got some information on the industry, a little industry overview. I find it kind of informational, and hopefully you will too, about the industry that you're a part of. Hopefully there's some new data or some things that maybe you didn't know previous to today. We'll walk through a little bit about what it means to operate a center today in today's economy. And I'll walk you through some stats from the industry, some benchmark study, and share with you a little bit about kind of that environment that the operator faces today. We'll play a little what if. We got a good sized group, so we can do some crowdsourcing and some crowdfunding. We're going to pull our money together. We're going to do a little what if and remodel and buy a bowling center. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then at the end of the day, if you're so inclined, how you can help. Well, Chad talked about this kind of ecosystem of bowling, and I wholly believe that. If you are so inclined, where do you fit in that ecosystem, and how do you help from the proprietor standpoint in helping us? Now, I know this. There's always a risk when you start to generalize, because there's always outliers. So generalizing is often, opens yourself up to a lot of, outliers. But I want to just kind of set the stage of what a basic operating environment is. And I also understand that all of you have different levels of relationship with with the centers that you work with. Some of you might be part of a local, some of you might be part of a state, some of you might be an association with one center, you might be an association with 10 or 12 centers. And all of you are probably at a different place with that relationship. So I certainly understand that. There are some that you probably walk arm in arm, lockstep, and getting things done to better the industry and better the business. And there's some that that proprietor, that bowling center owner is probably not on your Christmas card list. I get that. I certainly get that. But I'm going to share kind of some high-level things for you, some things for us to think about. Okay, a little bit about us here, just very quickly. We were founded in 1932, and we are the association that represents the bowling, and now it's growing into the bowling entertainment industry. So we've been around for 80-plus years. And our mission is a simple one to understand. It's a challenge every day for the team to execute on. It's to enhance the profitability of our members. We're there with one goal only. While we are a non-for-profit, our role is to help our individual member centers to become more profitable. And that's what we're there for. And we really do that through 3 different ways. And just very high level. One, we network just like all of you do. We have national conventions. We have opportunities to gather together and learn. So it's really networking. Any association, there are associations for associations. I mean, our associations have associations. So any association that gathers, they should, by its very definition, associate. They should gather together and share ideas. We certainly do that. We also serve in the area of group purchasing. And that'll make sense when I give you a little bit of an overview of the industry on why that's so important. Because it takes on a much different role than other associations that you may have belonged to, or you may have a friend or a spouse that belongs to. So we serve as a group purchaser for our members. And then we also fill that spot of education and training. And again, that will hopefully make more sense as you understand kind of the industry that you're a part of, because it's a very, very unique industry. And much like your keynote speaker said in the beginning, if you're an optimist, you'll see this data and you'll see what an incredible time to be part of this great industry. If you're a pessimist, you'll think it's time to sell and go home. So it's just the lens you look through. I'm an optimist. I believe it's an incredible time to be in this industry. It's an incredible time to do what all of us do, but it's important that we understand the landscape and the business that we're a part of. So currently, we represent 71% of all bowling centers in America. So we tell folks that 7 out of 10 centers in America belong to our group. Love to connect with the other 29%, but it is what it is. We have about 71% market share. Now, let's talk a little bit about the industry you're part of, because I find this kind of fascinating. And you may or may not know some of this, so I want to take some time and go through this. There are 4,768 bowling centers in America. Not that I'm counting, but I'm counting. That's what we do. So we're just a little less than 4,800. What we do as an industry is every January, we level set and come up with a number that we use for as our benchmark to say this is how many bowling centers there are in America. And then throughout the year, we track openings, closures, reopenings, anything that may take place, and then we reset that number every January 1st. Because this number, the moment it's published, is really obsolete because somebody, unfortunately, will close in a market, somebody will open in a market, whatever that case is. So our level set number for 2018 is 4,768. Now, there are currently 255 non-commercial bowling centers in America. A non-commercial center is the Elks Club, the VFW, the American Legion. They're non-for-profit business. The university, firehouse. Anybody here from Pennsylvania? Any Pennsylvania folks? Yeah, God bless you crazy Quakers. You got like bowling centers in every firehouse. Like every firehouse has 4 lanes. I love those things. It's really cool. So that would be a non-commercial type center, right, if they're there. Now, you still may certify those lanes. They may still have some small leagues or little tournaments or events that take place. Elks Club is a great example. Very, very cool. We love them. But we break them out a little differently because they're not a for-profit business, and we market those differently. But 255 is the number that we start off with. And actually, 100 of those are in Pennsylvania alone, right? And then the rest are in Wisconsin. So my cheeseheads friends, you're there too, okay? The rest of you are like, I don't know what they're talking about. There are 212 military centers in America. Our government, your government, my government, could be scary to think about this, is the second largest operators of bowling centers in the world. You may or may not know this, but on every military base, there is the MWR group that takes care of the men and women and their families that are deployed and training, and bowling is a big component of that. And some of you may work with the bases there. It's an incredible opportunity that we have because all of the military bases are members of our association, part of your group, and they are heavy league users, and they love the league product. We serve as the education and certification body for them because the military is big on certifications and checking the box and all the things that they do there. Wonderful folks to work with, love. In fact, when I'm leaving you in the morning, I'm going back, and then the Air Force will be there for their management school starting next week, and we'll have folks from all around the world and the country that run bowling centers on bases from the Air Force that will come to try to improve their operations, to take care of the men and women that are taking care of you and I. Second largest operator of bowling centers in the world. Most folks don't know that. So that leaves us with 4,301 commercial bowling centers. And that's really the group that we go out and market to. Now, our numbers will vary a little bit from something that Chad or someone from the USBC team might recite, because what they count are centers that are certifiable playing field. So this also includes duck pin. There are just a little less than 50 duck pin centers in America today still that we represent. There are also candle pin, a little less than 100 candle pins in America. And there are some models today that, whether they are a string machine or they just choose not to at this point in time certify the playing field, that are part of our count as well. So our count will typically, and always should be, a little larger than the count that you might see, that you might see part of the USBC numbers. And as I mentioned, out of that 4,768, about 3,400 belong to our group. So it's that 3,400 that choose to participate with our association, and we'd love to connect with the other 1,400 that we're trying to work with. Okay, of those 4,301, the average size center in America today is 22 lanes. Now, you might think that every bowling center in my town is 40 lanes and they're all big, or you might think every bowling center in my small farm town is 6 lanes or 8 lanes, but you roll it all together, the average size is 22 lanes today in America, okay? The median size is 20 lanes. Now, I don't want to get too deep in the weeds and go back to our stats class from college or high school, but whenever you have the opportunity to look at a median or an average, the median is always going to be a better representation, okay? Average is just that, just like our bowling average, that we run it, you roll together and divide it by the number. The median is just like the middle of that median in the road. That means there's as many less as there are that are greater. I use baseball as a great example. You know, the average salary in baseball could be $18 million. The median's much less than that because you've got a few guys making $20 million a year, and the rest of the poor folks are suffering at only a couple $1 million a year, right? That we should all suffer that way. But just for example, now, this may not mean much to you, but as somebody that studies this, I find this is fascinating, and what you probably don't have privy to is this number is shrinking. If I would have shown you this number last year, or you were part of the leadership group that came into the campus that we worked with while you were there and did a session like this, you would have saw that number was less. It was 16 lanes last year, okay? So that is shrinking. So what does that mean? What that means is it somewhat, maybe some of your communities validates what you're feeling. Some of the smaller rural centers that might be 6, 8 lanes in smaller communities are closing, and then what they're being replaced with 10 or 12 or 16 or 18 lane centers that might be in larger metropolitan areas. That makes sense? Because you've probably started to see some of that, okay? And again, I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing, it's just a statement of fact. It's a thing. And it's not unlike what's happening in other small towns across America, is it? I mean, every small town in America faces the same thing. It's the migration of our population as a country. No different than the drugstore, the bakery, I mean, the hardware store, all of them. I mean, they all face the same challenges. I mean, if I'm in a community of 6,000 people, they could be 6,000 wonderful people, and there's every reason in the world emotionally why there should be a bowling center there, just as emotionally there should be a bakery there and all the other things you need as a community, but the economics may not support it. And again, it still could be a wonderful place. So this is shrinking a little bit, and it just is kind of reinforcing the story that we hear out there as we see the migration of locations and the migration of people that are moving to more densely populated areas and doing that. Now, what we're not seeing are mega centers being built. You know, very rarely does anybody build a 40-lane bowling center, right? What we're seeing is folks putting in 12, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, whatever it is, and they're complementing that with other forms of recreation, entertainment, as we kind of get into this experience kind of business that we're in now, this out-of-home entertainment, that bowling is a component of that. So 34% are 12 lanes or less, 36% fall into that middle group, and then 30 are 24 or more. Now, I think what we'll see, and the data will just bear this out as time goes by, I think what we'll see is that 13 to 24, that's going to continue to grow. That's only going to get bigger because that's kind of the sweet spot for centers that are being built today in America in there, okay? So, and I could be wrong, it could change. I mean, you know, things can always shift. You know, that 24 or more, not many folks are putting in the big centers anymore, and the 12 or less, you know, probably is going to continue to shrink in some areas. Now, let's talk a little bit about us. That's kind of the data. Again, I find that kind of interesting. You may or may not. It's just the world you're a part of. Again, if you're an optimist, you say, how cool is that? That is awesome news. If you're a pessimist, you know, you're probably thinking, I probably should be gambling and drinking, and, you know, the rest not going to make any sense. We are a very small industry. A very small industry. Does not make us bad. We are just a very small industry, less than 5,000 units. Anybody watch Bart Rescue? Any Bart Rescue fans, if you watch that? Yeah. So you know, if you watch that, the lead-in that John Taffer says, or the voiceover that comes in says more than 5,000 bars in America go out of business every year. And now if you watch the newer episodes, it says 6,000. So more bars in America go out of business every year than there are bowling centers. And oftentimes folks think, Bart, there's a bowling alley on every corner. You know, there has to be, 10,000 bowling centers. Well, it's really about 4,800. Okay? We're relatively a small industry. Again, it's not a bad thing. And that's all of us together is less than 4,800. Just to kind of put that in perspective, you think about the restaurant industry. I told you about the bars, the restaurant industry. My wife loves a good Wendy's salad, right? That strawberry salad. She loves that at Wendy's. How many Wendy's there are in America? Well, throw me out a number. 8,000, pretty close, 6,000, a little over 6,000 Wendy's in America. One chain, One brand, 6,000. McDonald's? Yeah, too many. I mean, don't say it. If anyone works at McDonald's, don't be offended. Okay, like 14,000. Subways, just one sandwich shop, Subways, 25,000 Subways in America. That's why, even though it's no longer part of their advertising, that's why if I say to you $5, all of you will answer back, yeah, say you know. Because it's been ingrained in your mind on TV, because a portion of every sub that's sold at one of those 25,000 Subways goes to that to pay some A-list actor or athlete for them to say that and you to get it ingrained in your mind. Oftentimes at social events, folks will say, we should pool our money together and we should be on TV and we should do a Super Bowl ad. That'll fix bowling. Let's put all our money together and do a Super Bowl ad. And I'm like, I love the passion, I love the idea, but we just aren't big enough. There's less than 5,000 of us, right? There's 25,000 Subways that a portion of every sub is sold funds that over the year. So I love the passion. I love the idea of getting bowling out in front of folks. Nobody enjoys that more than I. But the reality is you just got to know who you are and what you can do. We're a neighborhood business. We're salty to the folks. I mean, you're part of your communities there. No franchise model. Very unique about our industry. No franchise model. Now, as soon as I figure that out, I'm going to be stinky rich. But until then, there's no franchise model in doing that. Very unique for our space. There's no model for that. And the largest operator in the country, in the world, has less than 300 units, 292, Bowmore AMF Brunswick, okay? Now, you may think, if you're in that market, you may think there's an AMF or a Brunswick Center in every corner, but the reality is there's less than 300, and the military is second, okay? So I'll give you a little visual of who we are. And we're a very mature industry. Some of you are associated with centers that are 50, 60 years old. You want to know when the median year that a bowling center in America was built? 1965. Who said that? Okay, I don't have a prize. I did. I give you something. I got nothing. But you're very smart, young lady. 1965. Now, I found that even shocked me, okay? In fact, when we did our research, I had to go back and ask the research firm, because we employ an outside firm to make it valid, to say, go back and crunch those numbers again. That just seems really, but no, it's 1965. It's amazing. So we're a mature industry. Again, it's not a bad thing. So, you've got kind of this visual of who we are. We are salt of the earth, hardworking folks, plugged into your community, that many have risked their life savings to try to bring some recreation out of entertainment to the places you're at, right? I mean, it's just, that's who we are. And some have done very well. Some still have some room for improvement. And unfortunately, like any business, some have failed. Some have failed. Now, thankfully, we don't lose 5,000 a year. We actually lose less than 100. It's down into the low 70s now, which that may seem like a lot, but that's, relative to other industries, that's pretty darn good. So that's who we are. It's just, and again, I hope some of that's new for you. Otherwise, that's 20 minutes of your life you'll never get back. But I think it's important for us to know and just understand what it is that we represent. Now, I find all of that amazing. I find all of that a positive, and there's nothing in there that says, well, that's really negative, Bart, because I think all of that is just, it is what it is, and I choose to look at it as a great opportunity. Now I'll get into my controversial part here, the part that Chad always, I don't think Chad's here, he's got a lot going on, but he always laughs at when he watches this. And that is this whole idea of the economics of running a business today. And I got to check my time there. So, and again, I think this is part about understanding. And I want to put another asterisk by my comments. There are some that are doing magnificently well, and there are some companies that are doing magnificently well, but often most are not doing as well as people think, because the general perception is, and maybe even some of you that work in the center, but for all of us, I always say, despite the rumors, not all proprietors are filthy rich. They don't print money, okay? They don't print money. And I want to walk you through a little bit of kind of some of the cost structures, some of the things they do. Again, just more from an understanding perspective. There certainly are anomalies, and there's one-offs, and there's folks that do worse than this, and unfortunately they're not able to stay in the business, and there's some that do much better than this. I like to reference this slide. This is from the restaurant industry, and this comes from a gentleman named Jim Sullivan. Jim is a well-known consultant in the restaurant industry for folks. And the restaurant industry has the same issues that we do, that the general restaurant worker or the general public that goes to a restaurant thinks that every restaurant operator is printing money, that they're just filthy, stinky rich. So this is kind of a poster that they develop and they use for the team members. This is like in the back office, you know, to show the team that works at the restaurant that, hey, you know, the owner is not printing money. You know, here's what it looks like. So this, oops, I got to go back here. The first number there, and I'll read them to you, payroll and taxes is 33 cents. So 33 cents of every dollar that goes in the average restaurant goes to payroll and taxes. Beverage and food costs is 34 cents. Marketing, equipment, and insurance is 20 cents. Rent as utilities is 8 cents. And the average profit for a restaurant operator today is 5 cents. So for every dollar they bring in, the average restaurant is 5 cents. They work off very thin margins. And that's why more restaurants fail than succeed when they open up. I mean, you know, 6 out of 10 or whatever number you want to subscribe to of new restaurants are going to fail in the first 2 years. So it's a thin margin business. And this is really just meant to be a visual to the team members to say, hey, you know, yeah, it's a great business. Now, if I'm making a lot of those dollars, those nickels can add up pretty quick. So I'm by no means, it's no woe is us and feel sorry for us or feel sorry for the business operator, the restaurant. There's some that do very, very well, but it's not printing money. And the other factor that's in this that often folks forget about is the gentleman that opens, or the family that opens up this restaurant are also putting their life savings at risk many times. They're mortgaging the house. They're, you know, they've got a lot at risk. So while they could have some reward, and in some cases it could be some very healthy reward, you know, they also have a lot to risk as well in there. They really are risking in many cases. They're, you know, it's not a corporate where, you know, these big corporations, when they stub their toe and lose a few million, they just go back to the board and the shareholders and say, we'll try better next time, right? But if it's a family and they stub their toe, then somebody is going to go without, you know, and they've got to make lifestyle changes. Now, what does that relate to us? I'm going to share with you actual numbers from the bowling business. This is from the most recent benchmark study that we've done as an industry. Again, it's an average. You have to be careful with averages. Some certainly do better. Some do worse. But this is our world. For every dollar of revenue that comes into the bowling center today, regardless of the type right now, okay, this is for the whole industry, not just a league-based house, 29 cents goes to payroll. 17 cents goes to what we call cost of goods. If you're not familiar with that, cost of goods would be any item that you purchase to sell, like food, beverage, beer, liquor, hot dogs, if you run your own pro shop. Any items that I inventory and I pay for, and then I sell, 17 cents of every dollar goes to pay for those items. 5 cents goes to utilities. 4 cents goes to R&M, which is repair and maintenance. I know you're thinking, Bart, there's probably some centers that need to spend a little more on repair and maintenance in my neighborhood, but that's what the industry average shows. 3 cents go to employee benefits. 3 cents goes to supplies. Only 2 cents to advertising. As a marketing guy, this always depresses me, but I have to remind myself that we're not a franchise model. We're not a corporation. You know, we don't subsidize national advertising, those type of things. So this is very low, but it falls into other sole proprietor businesses in that model. 7 cents are on what we call other non-fixed items. You lump them all together, and it goes in there. So for my mathematicians, if you've already added that up, 70 cents of every dollar is spent on what we refer to in our business as a controllable expense. Expenses that we as an operator can control if we manage those. We can manage the payroll, we can manage the parts, we can do a better job with inventory, we can try to track the various things that we do. So 70 cents goes just for those controllable expenses. Now, the rest of this data, I don't have the hard data because our industry is so individual proprietors, it's all reported different, but just keep in mind that this 70 cents does not include fixed expenses. So we haven't thrown in property taxes. We haven't thrown in rent if they lease the operation. We haven't thrown in the mortgage if you own the operation. We haven't thrown in any interest if you're doing remodels, insurance, fires, workers' comp, property, any of those things that we consider fixed costs in nature that the manager can't control. Doesn't include any of those things as we lump that in there. So depending on those fixed costs, which certainly can vary by business model and unit, the proprietor has between 5 and 10 cents left on every dollar in there. And again, that's not a woe is us. It's not a, feel sorry for us. It's just really a statement of fact. The good ones that can run a lot of dollars through, 10 cents is okay. Okay? The ones that struggle, and if you're at 4 or 5 cents on the dollar, you're having a tough go, with that. So it just really is meant to be a statement, because as working out in the field and working in centers for many, many years, if you ask the staff what they think the profit of the business they're working in, even as a staff, they really are nowhere near this. They believe it to be much, much more. Again, because they just haven't had the awareness and see. Because what we see and what they see, and sometimes what you see, is all the money that comes in when the league's paying, right? So you see all that inflow of cash. And you see all the inflow when someone goes to the bar or someone goes to the snack bar. You see all that. What you miss after you leave is the check being written for payroll, the check being written to the power company, the check being written to the government for taxes, the check being written for the liability insurance, the check that's, whatever those checks are. So team members and many of you here, we don't see the outflows, we just see the inflows. So that's why, if somebody that comes to watch our business, they come on a Friday, Saturday night, and they're just like a business person, they say, I'm going to do this right away. This looks easy, right? This is like printing money. Look at all the money coming in, and I tell them, hang around on Monday when we go to the bank, and then let's stick around, write a few checks with me. We'll see. Still a great business to be in, but don't just judge it on what you see on Thursday Night League when you're handing over all that league money, or on a Saturday night when you're seeing all those birthday parties or open play or whatever it may be. Oh, and then, by the way, we haven't even talked about giving a little bit to the government, what's left. I'm not opposed to that, but, then you get into the whole taxation issue, what's left there. Okay? Any questions on any of that? I know we got a large group, but I don't want to bore you with stuff, but I want to make sure we understand that, because that's important. So let's dig into a little bit of the industry again and what the typical bowling center in America does. In 2004, our study showed that as an industry, we were split right down the middle, 50-50 on league lineage and casual lineage. So as an industry, we had done it. Now, this was a tipping point in our industry, of which many people really didn't understand, didn't know, and again, didn't make them bad. You don't know what you don't know. But there have been some that had been following this. So in the late 80s and early 90s, you saw this trend of league bowling that kept going down. And then you saw this trend of casual that kept going up. And we knew it would happen. We knew there would come a day where those lines would intersect, and then the likes of which we may not understand for some time. And that happened in 2004. Now, it's 2018, we're 14 years later, and we're still all here. So the world didn't come to an end. Now, there were some centers, unfortunately, that weren't able to adapt and change. They weren't able to keep up with the demanding marketplace, and unfortunately, they didn't survive. And I wish them well, but that's just kind of the natural evolution of a business cycle and being able to do that. Now, your location, the centers that you represent, or some of the centers maybe even that you work at, you might absolutely be at a center where you say, hey, Bart, my center is still 70% league. I'm like, that's awesome. That's incredible. Good. If that's your business model, go for it. Nothing wrong with that. And then there are some that you probably know of in your markets that have no leagues or very little league. They may be 90% casual, only 10% league. And if that business model works for them, then that's fine too. Whatever that model is. But there's two components to this. Not only is there what is the breakout of the lineage I have, but the thing that we have to keep in mind is, what about the total volume? Because 50% of 100,000 is different than 50% of 50,000, isn't it? So, sometimes I run in, and I love all our 3,400 members. They're like our kids. We're in Switzerland, we love them all. God bless some of them. But, someone will come up proud and say, well, I'm 80% league, and that's the way it should be, Bart. And I said, well, that's awesome. How's your business overall? Well, it's in the tank. I said, well, stick with that 8% league then, and keep trying, if that's working for you. So it's both of them. It's both together. Or there could be some that the other way are 80% casual, and the leagues have, they can't figure out how to rebuild their leagues, and but I know that's where it's going. We should be casual. I said, well, how's business? Overall, it's terrible. Well, maybe you should get some more leagues, right? Maybe you should do some more frequent business. So there's another factor in here. It's the volume, not only the breakout of that lineage as well. So 2004 was that year that our industry had a watershed moment, not unlike when automatic scoring, bumpers, glow-in-the-dark bowling, whether you love or hate it, just there's some watershed moments in our industry that things would never be the same once that crossed. And some thought it was the beginning of the end, and some thought it was the beginning of a great run. Just depends the lens that you look through. We measured again in 2006. It changed to 51. We measured again in 2004. It was 56. And then this is the most recent data that you're getting to look at that many of the proprietors haven't got a chance to see yet. We now are at 62.38. And again, I just am sharing the data with you. You can find 100 reasons why that's awesome. You can find 100 reasons why the world's coming to an end and you should call it a day. Just what lens do you want to look through? Outside of that, again, we've got to look at the volume as well. I love what Chad said this morning that all bowling is good, and I do believe that. But I would also add to that too much of any one type of bowling can be bad on either end. I love ice cream, but it's like when you got kids, right? What happens if you have too much ice cream? Yeah, I'll share with you the dramatic part, but it's not good, doesn't end well, right? So I think that, and it can be for anything, whether you're all casual or you're all league, or you say, Bart, I'm all this, and that's all I am. I said, well, that's okay, but I'm not sure long-term that's a healthy model, right? I'm not sure that's a healthy model long-term. A little bit of ice cream is good, a lot of ice cream is bad, right? And too much. So the biggest shift that I've seen, and my last comment on this side, the biggest shift that I've seen personally is entertainment-type concepts that have now realized the value of frequent guests during the week and have started to go back and figure out, how do I build leagues, Monday through Thursday? And now they're coming back saying, all right, maybe I should think about this thing called a league or a club, and maybe I should think about USBC and what this is. They're coming back, they realize it. I can count on one hand, and I won't go into names, it would be appropriate, given the forum, because again, we love all 3,400. There are very few models that I see today that are able to sustain with only one dimension, meaning that they're totally casual with no frequent business at all. And conversely, I think there are very few centers left that can do nothing but league and not open themselves up to other things. The challenge is defining your business and taking care of all those guests. That's the tough part. The business got so much tougher. Business is so much, if you know it, if you're an equity person, the business isn't what it was 10 years ago as far as level of complexity, because you serve many masters and you have to take care of a lot of different groups, when you're in there. You can't just be one-dimensional on there. So let's do a little what if during my few minutes here and I'm going to be good on time. I don't want Ben to get mad at me here, because this is the question I often get too. Folks will, I wish my center, and I'm sure some of you here, don't raise your hand, okay, don't tell me, but I'm sure some of you are thinking about a center or centers that may be in your association or in your marketplace that you just wish they'd invest a little more money, right? You'd wish and that was too quick. Okay, it's too quick. Don't tell me the name. Just, you can still think about it. And I'm not saying they should or shouldn't, okay, because I don't know it, and it'd be foolish for me to say that they should or shouldn't do that. I just want to give you something to think about, okay? This may be why, and it may not be why. They just may be cheap. That could be it too, but there may be a reason for that. So let's what if. We got a big group here. If we all put our money together, and let's, ma'am, where are you from? Waterloo, I love Waterloo, Iowa. So here's what we're going to do. There's a 20-lane center in Waterloo, Iowa that we're all going to pitch in our money and buy, okay? Because that's what the average size center is in America, the median size center. We bought this bowling center. It's been sitting dormant for some time. The calls that I love, these ones that I love, because I field a lot of these calls. We're a pretty small team. Just to mention, BPAA has 30 team members, plus or minus a couple during seasonality. We're 30. We take care of 3,400, so we wear a lot of different hats like you in the centers, and I'm sure the jobs that you do as well. So I often field calls where somebody is bought a bowling center in a community, a smaller community that has been shut down for some time, and they're following their dream. Right? They're following their dream, and they want to open that back up, and they're bowlers, and they're passionate, they're business people, and they want to give back. I love those calls that we walk through. So we've got this 20-lane center in Waterloo, Iowa, and it needs some scoring. The scoring's old, it's outdated. You're laughing already. I'm not. It needs some scoring, and just the old stuff's black and white, or it's crummy original color, probably some AS90s or some nonsense. So, and then it's easy to say, let's go buy some scoring, right? Everybody's passed around the hat like church. We're gonna go buy some scoring. Today it's about $15,000 a pair, or $150,000 to do our 20-lane center. So I'm going to ask you to dig deep, write some big checks there. in order to do that. And if I'm going to make that payment as an independent operator, remember there's no franchise model, very little corporate structure. I'm not going to the board of directors, or I'm not going to sell shares to raise that $150,000. I've got to talk to dad or grandpa or cousin Bill or somebody and say, you know, maybe we should put off retirement a couple years. Let's get that $150,000 out. Now, I know what you're thinking. Scores are nice, but why don't we do the lanes while we're at it too? Because those lanes are shot, right? They don't have any more cuts left in them. We can't certify them. Let's just cover them up, or it was some really old stuff there. So what if we need to do the lanes in that center? It's about $10,000 a pair today, $100,000 for for the center. So we've got $250,000 just to make the plane surface, you know, good, and to give our guests a good experience where they can see their scores and they have functioning, you know, scores on there. It's $250, right? And we haven't done anything anywhere else. So those are some of the decisions that operators have to think about. And they're in a building. We just opened it up. I bet you the roof's leaking. Need some HVAC. You know, there's a lot of things that could be happening. And while I love Waterloo, sounds like a great place to hang out, maybe that's not the best use of our $250,000. And if it is, if I've got a 40-year-old building and I'm going to invest $250,000 for those items and I haven't touched the building, do I want to finance that with my local bank in Waterloo for 10 years? You know, who's with me on that one? Not many hands are going up. I'm not saying they shouldn't. I'm not saying that's a valid excuse. Those are some of the things you have to think about. That's the mindset. They just can't, you know, there's not a magic safe that they go into and just pull out the money. If we had a larger corporate structure, if we had where we could go to shareholders and just raise capital, it would be so much easier. That's why these mega chain restaurants can print these restaurants and open them so fast, because they're just going to a board and a shareholder and selling some more shares on Wall Street and taking the money. You know, I've got to take out a second mortgage on the house and cut into the kids' college fund and do those things. And maybe sometimes I should, but those are things. So, look, well, I love Waterloo, but we're not going to do that. Let's do something else. All right, here's what we're going to do, because this is a better idea. We're going to build a new center. Let's pool our money together, and we're going to build a center there, okay? So, ma'am, where are you from? I can't even say that. Anacortes, Washington. I love Anacortes, Washington. So here's what we're going to do, folks. I don't know if you've been to Anacortes lately. That place rocks. So we're going to build a new center. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to pool all our money together. We're going to build us a new bowling center, because that way I don't have to worry about that 40-year-old building and the leaks and the roof and all the things that just went. So let's do that. We're going to pass around the hat one more time. What would that cost today if we're going to build us a place? Average is about $100,000 per pair for the build-out. That's just $2 million for the equipment. Balls, racks, hoods, lanes, scores, all the things that we need, back office system, POS, and all that. Does it include the land and the remaining build-out? So I'm fairly sure the land there is going to be expensive. Washington's a very expensive state. You guys, minimum wage like $15 an hour. Pretty expensive there, so I'm sure land's going to be very expensive, right? So, you know, and just so you know this, you got to have a minimum of about 4 or 5 acres. So let's add on a couple million for land. So that's why you see these big places, not even big places, these new places, they're going to be 6 to 10 million. 6 to 10 million. Now this is why today, when people say no one's building traditional bowling centers anymore, it's not because it's a bad model, it's cost prohibitive. Does it make sense? Okay? That's why when they say, well, what's wrong with bowling? Nothing's wrong with bowling. Bowling's an incredible activity. But the economics of it are, I'm not going to invest $10 million on a revenue model that can't support that. The bank just says, you can't, we're not going to give you that. We can't do that. You can't justify it. So that's why you add in something else. And it could be a laser tag, could be all the things that some of us like or don't like, games and redemption, high-end food and beverage, a restaurant, a comedy club, an escape room, whatever that is. That's one of the largest drivers is the build-out cost, because you have to have those other sources of revenue. It's not when we want to go to Washington, it's not that we don't like league bowling or we think that's a bad model. It's if we're going to build this thing out, I got to have something else there to help support that and make the note in doing that. And the second part of this driver is you as a consumer. The consumer always wins. They tell us what they want. You know, this out-of-home entertainment, mom and dad and the family and all of you, you don't want to stop 3 places. You want to go one place for your experience. You know, we live in that I need it now, in this microwave society we live in, I need it now. So one part market, one part cost. Makes this very cost prohibitive. Now, people are in this space, and they're building, and there are new centers coming on all the time, and some of them are incredible places, but they're just not going to be maybe the places that you and I grew up with. And they're not going to be the places that maybe you and I bowled our first league in. All right? But there's still places, and they still, you know, and they're understanding every day that they need that league guest. Anybody here from Denver? Any Denver folks? Okay. Have you ever heard of a company called The Summit? Yeah. Yeah, Colorado Springs. And they've got one in Windsor. And I'll mention, beautiful place. I don't know if you've been in there. Beautiful place. You'd be a hard find to find a more beautiful bowling center in America today. Very sharp operators. I happen to know the owners. They know, and from day one in their business model, they said, we want leagues. We love leagues. But I want them in the part during my business model that makes sense. Monday through Thursday, I'm going to take great care of those guests. I want them and need them. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, love you, but you're not coming in, right? It's just part of their business model, and they get it. They understand it, and they're doing very well with that. They from the beginning have said, in order for us to succeed, we need to figure out how to bundle all this together and take care of all these different guests. So as I kind of wrap up my time before we do our little exercise there, I just want to share some things with you if you're so inclined. Remember, you're part of a great industry and an incredible sport. Never forget that. I hope you all know this, but bowling is the largest participation sport in America. Everybody know that? More people bowl than play tennis, golf, soccer. You fill it in, doesn't matter. We kick them all, right? 67.2 million Americans over the age of 6 bowled last year, making us the top participation sport in America. And that's incredible. Nobody else can say that. I have some friends in the golf industry, and I love them, but sometimes they're a little snooty, those golfers, right? They're a little snooty. Sorry, offensive any golfers. But at the end of the day, I have to say, hey, Chris, stand down, man. We kick your butt every day. You got like 36 million. We're 67 million. Now, before we get too kind of full of ourselves and pat ourselves on the back, we should be number one. You have an activity that has no barriers to entry, 3 to 103. It doesn't judge you on skill, race, limitations. You know you're part of it. Blind Bowling Association, Wheelchair Bowling Association, Special Needs, Special Olympics, you know, all creeds. It's an incredible activity. You are part of an incredible activity, an incredible sport. You should be proud. You should be proud to tell your friends, your family, anyone what you're a part of. Nobody can touch what you do. Nobody brings more joy and happiness in people's life than what you do. No one, period. They just can't. They can't touch the numbers. So just remember, you're part of an incredible activity. Know that your proprietor wants more USBC members. It just may not be the same type of USBC members that you're accustomed to. That location in Windsor might not have that 16-team scratch league that is kicking the ball return and pounded down shots after bowling, right? And not that they're bad folks. I used to be one of those. But it may just be a different type of guest, right? But virtually every one of the proprietors that I know and work with, they understand the value and they want more bowlers. We're saying the same thing, we just may not be on the same wavelengths. Understand where USBC membership fits into the business model and the cost structure they operate on. I shared that with you merely as information, not to woe is us, not at all. It's a wonderful industry. I would encourage any of you, if the right opportunity comes up, invest in the industry. It's a great industry. But just know the cost structure. And know from your proprietor and sitting down with Don at Summit, understanding with them where their business model is and where can I help, you know, and where can you help me to bring on more members and when we get them. And then connect with your proprietor and offer to help. And I understand some of you probably have awesome relationships, as I mentioned. Some, when you connect, they still may disengage and not want to be a part of it, but at least you've taken the high road and made the offer. And shame on them. Shame on them. And I would tell them to their face, shame on them. If one of you come and offers to help, and you are, with your heart of hearts, want to understand their business model, and you want to help them build their business, and they're not interested in that, shame on them. They deserve to fail. Right? They just do. So just know that. So anyway, that's my brief time with you. Whenever bowling folks gather together, I'm always remiss if I don't just say thanks. Thanks for what you do. Thanks for being part of this. I hope that it's a little bit of time just to get you thinking about looking through that lens of an operator and kind of what keeps them up at night. just as we should try to understand and look through your lens and understand what keeps you up at night. Because I think the more we think we're different, the more we're really the same. And I do believe that if we really do seek first to understand and then be understood, we probably can move this needle a whole lot farther. So thank you all very much. Have a great rest of your convention. I'm going to turn it over to Ben, who has a very short exercise just for a few moments here, and then we're off to the races there. So Ben.
All right. Hopefully everybody got a handout at the beginning of the seminar when you were walking in. If you didn't, please know there's nothing on that piece of paper that's super top secret. All it is a tool for you to use once you go back to your association to help create action items here. So before I dive in a little bit too much, just a little bit about myself to help you understand where I'm coming from with all this. My name is Ben Brose. I'm currently the Northeast Regional Manager. A few of you may, Northeast. A few of you may recognize me as Ben Brose, the rules counselor prior to that. I've been with USBC for 7 years. But why I was really excited about helping Bart out with this presentation, very few of you would recognize me as Ben Brose, the son of a proprietor. Our family owns 3 centers, well, 2 now. One of my uncles just recently closed his second center. So I'm very happy to be here and help out you in your understanding of where the proprietors come from. So without further ado, let's dive right into this. If you look on your piece of paper there, what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be developing a start-stop list. It's a really simple process. What we're going to do, first of all, we're going to spend 3 minutes here. I want you to fill in the blanks on that start portion of it of things that you can think of that you're going to start doing to help build your relationship with your proprietors. Things that you're not doing currently that you want to start, increase communication, whatever that is. So we're going to spend 2 minutes here, and we're going to jot down as many items as you can think of ways that you can start doing new things to help build your relationship with your proprietor. All right, in the next minute or so, if you happen to have more than one item written down there, I want you to prioritize that list. If you could only do one of those things, what is the one thing you're going to take to your president, your association manager, your entire board? What's the one thing you want to do to help out your proprietors? Go ahead and prioritize that list. All right, let's move on. So thinking back to everything Bart laid out for you and everything that the proprietor goes through, let's move on to the second half of that sheet. What are some things you can think of that you or your board are currently doing that you would like to stop or decrease doing to help build your proprietor relations? Could be anything. Anything you can think of that your board or yourself are currently doing that's hindering your relationship that you either want to stop or reduce doing. Go ahead and spend a couple of minutes thinking about that and go ahead and write that down on the stop portion of your sheet. All right. What we're going to do next is we're hopefully going to get 1 or 2 brave volunteers that would like to give their one thing they're going to take back to their board. What are your one thing you're going to take back to your board to start doing? Do we have any brave volunteers that will do it? Oh, let me run the mic over to you. 1 sec.
I would like to increase the proprietors and the staff of the bowling alley, their knowledge of what USBC is and what we do.
Thank you so much. Anybody else?
We got one over here.
Get more involved.
Awesome. Any specifics as to how you're going to get involved?
Talk to my proprietor and see more of his side of the story instead of, just the league bowlers.
Awesome. Opening up those lines of communication is always a great idea. We can always communicate more. It's never a bad thing. Anybody else want to be brave and show what they want to do to help their proprietor?
I think one of the important things, it's almost along the lines of communication, but specifically helping maybe the staff and some of the center that we work with has got some new turnover in the management and everything, just helping them to understand how to better promote their leagues and their tournaments and their events, how to, announce it, make sure you remind people regularly, things along that line. So not only does it help, turn out for the event, but it also helps them to understand the best way to do that so they can be an active participant in that role.
Yeah, that's an awesome one. Can I layer on one thing before I give the mic to this young lady, because that was very good and it's very real. One of the things that I see happening in our industry today, especially with the centers that are reopening in the marketplace, are first-time proprietors that have no idea about a league and what it is. So they need your help. This is no lie. Just got an email. My phone was buzzing while you folks were doing your exercise. There's a 12-lane center that's been closed for 3 years in Wisconsin that's reopening under new ownership, and they're restaurant folks. They know nothing about bowling. They need help doing leagues, and the note that I got that says, can somebody help them? They know a lot about food and beverage, they know a lot about other things, but they know nothing about bowling. So this whole idea of leagues and certification and all those things are just Greek to them. Can you help? So I'm going to give it to this young lady here because I stole part of her time, but great add-on over there, young man. Virtual high five.
All right. We were talking about, like the lady said here, communication. I think we need to communicate with the proprietors and sit them down and have a talk with them and say, how can we help? We can promote their business for them through websites, through Facebook, through social media like that, and it's free. If we show them that we can help build their business, then they'll want to, give and take. And yes, we'll get leagues in and help promote their maybe laser tag or whatever. We can do all of that, and it's free. Word of mouth is the best advertisement in the world. I built my business on it, and it's all free. It's no cost to the bowler. It's no cost to the proprietors, and I just think that would be building a better relationship all the way around.
Thank you. Awesome. Awesome. Let's switch it up a little bit. Let's go to the bottom of the sheet. Do we have any brave souls that want to give their one thing they're going to stop doing or slow down doing?
Yeah, I think for stop doing, we have to work with our bowlers in this for this part. But talk with our members and ourselves and quit using social media to complain about certain houses and certain management.
Okay, I've got an add-on here from Richard.
That's what I was going to say about quit complaining. Be more patient with the alleys. If a machine breaks down on them, they got to have time to fix it. Everybody sits there and says, "Geez, this breaks down every day. I'm always on a lane that breaks down." We can show you. No, you're not.
All right. Anybody else that want to add on to it? Absolutely.
Hey, while we're grabbing that, anybody here from Wisconsin? Anyone here from near Madison? Yeah, so in Columbus, Wisconsin, Cardinal Ale House is opening up. It was closed for 3 years. Used to be the old Fast Lanes. Yeah, brand new folks. They know nothing about bowling. We're going to get them hooked up.
One of the things that associations tend to do is when you're having events, you go to your proprietors and you're asking them what you need. Or you're asking for lineage reductions. You're asking them for everything. What do you do as an association for them? We tend to ask them for everything, but then in the turn, it's not a win-win situation. We need to say, this is what we can now do for you. So instead of looking at it only one way, it's a two-way street. By what we can do, they will help us out more.
Very nice. Thank you so much. We got one up here, Ben. Go ahead, sir.
For that center in Wisconsin. We had a center ourselves that was closed for 4 years, and that center can go to their old league secretaries, because my wife was a league secretary for our center that closed, and she had all names, she had team members, and when our center reopened, she got on the line, got a hold of all the teams, and we have a 20-lane house, and we filled 18 of those 20 lanes on a Sunday night league. So the league secretaries that were in that house before, if them people can find them, they can probably help them get started back on business.
Very awesome. Anyone on either start or stop, either way?
I believe we have to change our mindset just a little bit and away from the league bowler as USBC members and start condoning non-registered leagues. Get them in the door first, then get them into our leagues.
All right. We'll go one more. If anybody has one more they want to add. Karen.
One of the things that worked out for me this year, don't know if it will in the future or not, I made sure every single league was aware that if you're a certified league, only certified bowlers could be in that league, because we found out there was a mix in a couple leagues. And I thought we were going to lose bowlers. But I told the leagues, this USBC is a club, and you want to belong to the greatest club in the entire world. And I have a league that used to certify, without me knowing there were non-certified bowlers, about 14 bowlers. This year they have 48 bowlers that are certified.
Thank you for that. But I want you to keep an eye on your action list, please. We all have stuff that we wrote down that we're either going to start or stop doing. Please don't let that die here in this room. Please make sure those get back to your boards, to your officers, to your proprietors. So with that, we'll get you out a few minutes early. Go ahead and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much for coming, everybody.